Marriage is the worst promise that you can break. Now, this is a big statement to make, and I'm really going to give you guys a whole context, a whole build up as to how I got here. So stay tuned to the end. Whether you're already agreeing or disagreeing, I highly recommend that you guys watch this video all the way through, especially because I want to hear from you whether you agree or you disagree with me. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe if you're feeling the vibe and you want to join the tribe, and like the video if you enjoy it, because the algorithm don't like me, so I need y'all to support me, right? So I was having a conversation with a loved one of mine, and I'm going to just bring you guys through the journey of how I came to this conclusion so we can all evaluate this, right? And I was talking to somebody, and this other person, and it was so interesting because it was a loved one of mine. It was so interesting because so many times in society, especially now where there's like 75 to 90% of divorces in the United States being initiated by women, and the biggest reason people are getting divorced is because of financial issues, and the biggest predictor of divorce statistically in the United States is if a woman is out earning her husband. And I talked about this in another video, so I won't get into why I think that happens, and why it, to me, is a signal that we should go to more traditional values. Some of you definitely want to click off. If you need to click off, go on ahead. If you want to hear what I gotta say, you stay tuned. So as I was kind of thinking about this, I thought about, first and foremost, I've said this before anyway, right, that I truly believe being married, choosing to spend the rest of your life with one person, committing yourself to somebody, opening yourself up to the intimacy. I'm envisioning this marriage as how God intended, not the government, not the paperwork. Talking about biblical spiritual marriage is a lot of things that a lot of people are not prepared to do, right? And I think for us as women especially, we don't necessarily enter into these agreements fully prepared to make that commitment. And that's why I've even said in previous videos, like, listen, if you ain't getting married and you're not trying to stick it out to the end, if you're not trying to fight for your marriage, don't get married. Because if you're going to be selfish, don't destroy marriage and say marriage doesn't work because, or your marriage wasn't good if you were not prepared to fight for it. Because as this other person in my other loved one said to me, but then also, as I also think, they were saying that, well, marriage is one of those things that when you get married to somebody, you're making a vow that I'm going to stick with you for life, right? And a lot of people, and so when you decide to go outside of that, that actually does say a lot about you, because it says, wow, you are going against a lifetime vow that you made. The most long-term vow you make, of course, after receiving the Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, which is the most important vow you're going to make ever, right? But on outside of that, right, the biggest promise you're ever going to make in life is to somebody you're going to marry, because you're not saying I'm gonna love you and it's gonna be perfect and it's gonna be Hollywood and it's gonna be Disney every day. You're saying I'm gonna choose you every day. I'm gonna choose to be committed to you every day. I'm gonna choose to love you every day, regardless. And that's a lot to ask, and that's why I think God only gave us one commitment to make to that level as far as marriage. But what I've been noticing is that a lot of people, I don't think people see marriage as that. I've said to you guys before that a lot of people who are married just don't be married. Just don't even be married, because don't ruin it for the rest of us. Don't ruin it for the people who want to be committed to that level by saying, oh, marriage doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. Because that's one of those things that I hear frequently people say, like, I was married. Let's talk about the statistics, which I can't remember if I mentioned this already, because this is not the first time I tried to film this video, but I'll say it again just in case, right? We already know that in the United States, 75 to 90% of divorces are initiated by women. The biggest reason that people are getting divorced is financial issues, and one predictor of a situation that a marriage is going to end in divorce is when the woman out earns the man. Now, I want to just say this as a quick disclaimer, that I understand that if you're a woman and your man isn't doing anything and blah blah blah, there are guys like that. I get it if you don't want to be involved in that marriage, although biblically, technically, the only ticket out of marriage is actually infidelity. So let's just start there, right? And some of the best marriages I've seen that have worked out for the longest have been people who stuck by one another regardless of anything else through the hardest seasons of that marriage, right? But then that's what also brought me to why marriage is the worst promise to break, because you've literally told a person, and especially if, let's say, let's look at this from the lens of the women in the US, where majority 75 to 90% of the women was 75 to 90% of divorces are being initiated by women. So we're out here saying men are trash, men are this, and whatever we're saying. But at the very same time, we're the ones who are, as soon as this isn't serving me no more, I want to jump ship. And that's the problem I have. Because it's such a huge promise to make. And when you're that easy and it's that quick for you to jump out of that type of commitment, that actually says a lot more about you than the situation, to be honest. Because you made that commitment. You stood there, you had the wedding, you had the ceremony. And it's funny to me because, to me, I personally don't want to have a big wedding. I think a lot of people are going to debt for their wedding, I think, are not smart. People that put thousands and thousands of dollars, pounds, whatever you have into their wedding, I don't get it, because I'm like, you could spend that money as a couple on better things, right? Invest in your future, whatever that is for you guys, whether it's the house, whether it's the car, whether it's a business, I don't know. And then on top of that, a lot of people are just incentivized to get married because they want to, especially us ladies, because they like the concept of it, but they're not thinking about the commitment element. And I think what tends to happen, I've given this to you guys before, and I'm going to say again, that there's 3 types of relationships, right? And there's only one of them that's right. The first type of relationship is where you have 2 selfish people. I'm in this for me, and you're in this for you, and this is going to work out as long as we can manage us both being in this for each other. And that's probably going to end in divorce, because I'm not trying to budge and you're not trying to budge, right? It doesn't work. And then you have the middle relationship, which I think a lot of people find themselves in, which is selfish and the selfless person. I'm in this for you, you're in this for me and us, but because you're invested in me and I'm not invested in you, this is where you have the givers becoming depleted, and then the takers taking and enjoying it. And if you stay in that for too long, that's where you're going to be, and then you're going to feel salty on the other end, right? As if you're the giver, because you're going to be like, well, I did everything for you and this is how it turned out, right? Then you have the selfless marriages where it's like, I'm going to try and do everything for you, they're going to try and do we're both trying to do everything for each other, and we're both trying to understand each other, and we're both committed to each other. And I just think commitment is one of those things that people don't understand anymore, because society, blah, 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 lots of things have given us reasons to not invest in commitment, to not think that it is impressive, it is desirable to put yourself in a place where you are committed to potential individual, because you'd rather just be, in it as long as it suits you, right? So going back to the first or second option, and I personally believe that a marriage has to be the final one, because you trying to build a life with somebody, as the Bible says, to become one, and you become one flesh. You're 2 different fleshes. You're a person. First of all, I've said to you guys before, men and women are fundamentally different, I believe, significantly. So just based on that, it's going to be difficult but worth it in a lot of senses, because you're dealing with the opposite sex. I've said to you guys, I think I'll speak as a woman who are with women. To me, that's the easy option. It's easy to be with a woman. I could easily be in a relationship with a woman. They wouldn't probably hold me accountable. They probably acknowledge all of my feelings as 100%. As extreme as I feel them, sometimes they're not and sometimes they are. And I think the same for men, because you're on the same playing field to understand. So when it comes to making the commitment to the significant other, it's if they're of a different gender, that's where the challenge really comes. And that's my problem, because I think a lot of these women, and that's what sticks out to me when I hear the statistic, I think, so you're telling me that the men were actually more committed to these marriages than the women were, right? Which is exactly what we're saying, because 75 to 90% of divorce in the United States are initiated by women. And these things are not because of cheating, which is what the Bible gives as a reason to exit to marriage. It's because you are out earning him. You no longer respect him, and now you don't even see a point in him or in men in general. And then we have this, we don't even need men. Men are trash. I'm be fine on my own, which sounds all great and fine and dandy until you're 45 years old alone, watching the rest of us enjoying marital life and the stages that come with that. And so, I think marriage is the great, when you're in a, and this is where I start to think about it, because I started to think, how do all the guys who are the recipient of these divorce things feel, right? So for example, there was a Tia Mowry situation, and I was very sad about this, because I grew up watching Sister, I grew up watching, Tia and Tamara on that show, and I really appreciated her and her talent. And her story for me was one of those things where her and her husband's story was one of those things where I loved it, but I found it interesting because their story was that she was hugely successful. He was in a bad place when they first came together. And then she kind of helped him to become, she was there for him basically. And obviously now he has his own career, this, that, and the other. I think that's normal. I think even as couples, even in a traditional sense, even in a biblical sense, just because you're holding the place as a man or a woman in a relationship doesn't come down to who's earning what. It comes down to how your relationship operates for you guys individually. And so to hear her say that she realized that she wanted to do more things for herself, blah, 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 herself, everything herself, right? I didn't like how she handled the divorce. I think she could have given way less details to the public, especially because of the fact that they have children, but she obviously went out of her way to say that she wanted to choose herself finally, and this is finally her chapter and all this, which was so cringy and irritating to me, because I just thought, your marriage is not supposed to be about, oh, this is what's in it for me. If you choose somebody who's completely invested in you, and you choose somebody you're completely invested in, and you invest in each other, and when you do that and you put the other person, this is why I gave you guys a little breakdown of the selfish versus selfless thing, then it's going to work out in the long run, because you're always trying to, serve the other one, and the other one is always trying to serve you. And I think even when it comes to the biblical scriptures where the Bible says, wives, submit to your husbands as unto the Lord, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church, Ephesians 5, right? It's saying that this is how you are to serve, but this is the context in which you are to serve one another. So the man is in his context is, you're the man, you're responsible for the provision and protection of your family, such as Jesus is. As a woman, you're responsible for the nurturing, loving, and submission into your family, just as the bride of Christ is supposed to be, right, in the Bible. Now, think about this, ladies, for those ladies out there. If you have a man who is as dedicated as Jesus is to you, regardless of his paycheck, this, that, and the other, is that not a man that you want to keep? Is that a man not worth committing to? And then as men, a woman who submits to you as she submits to the Lord. Now, as a woman who is in submission to the Lord, there are many things that I would like to do, and I could do them, not because I don't do them because God's grace or something isn't sufficient. I could do them, but I just know it wouldn't be smart. But I want to be in submission to the Lord because he loves me and he wants the best for me. So I want to be in submission to him. I want to be in submission to his leadership. And honestly, I kind of love leaving the pressure over to him. And I think a lot of us ladies, deep down, if we wanted to be realistic, that's how we feel. And so when it's us ladies, initiating these divorces, first of all, I think about the male perspective when you're a guy who's been served a divorce by a woman, like what a guy might be thinking. But second of all, I also think you just skipped out on a commitment that you made. And we as ladies like to run around like, oh, men are trash, men are this, whatever. But when we are just so quick to jump out of this agreement when it suits us, which we do whether in marriage or otherwise, yeah, this is the worst promise to break, because you've promised somebody the most intimate thing. You've promised somebody, I'm going to stick by you, I'm going to be there for you, this is us, this is what we're doing, we're married. And then you just jump out of it when it doesn't suit you anymore. That is not commitment. That is not keeping to a promise. And that says a lot about you as a person. It says that you're self-serving and self-centered. And I talked about this in a previous video. And what video was it? I can't remember. So you guys are going to have to just watch my videos to check it out. And now don't forget to subscribe if you're feeling the vibe and you want to join the tribe, And so it's one of those things where I think, ladies, like, let's be real with each other. Let's be real with the gentleman. We can all say what we want to say about the male community, but a lot of the case in the Western society, particularly in the United States, is where this data I'm giving is coming from. And I've seen it in the UK, less so because people in the UK are more cowardly, in my humble opinion. Gave you guys a second to receive that, because I know that's kind of not nice for a lot of people to hear. But you are going against a promise that you made. It was a promise. And something I've realized about promising and saying things is one of the most disappointing things in life is when somebody says they're going to do something and they're not. And it could be the most basic level and it can be the most extreme level. So the most basic level could be if you've had a really long week, your back's hurting, your shoulders are hurting, whatever, and your significant other says to you, babe, don't worry, I'm going to give you a massage on Friday. I'm going to give you a massage. Just let me know when you want a massage. You can have it whenever you want. And you're thinking, wow, that's first of all going to save me money because I don't have to pay for a massage. Second of all, I would most like it for it to be with my significant other anyway, right? If that person doesn't do that, that is a disadvantage to your life. Like, them not meeting up to their promise is a disadvantage to your life, because now you have to find that somewhere. Now you have to deal with the fact that if I hold you accountable for this, how are you going to react? Are you going to try and justify why you didn't do it? You're going to try and this, that, and the other, right? But then let's go to another extreme. Let's say that you, as a man or woman, have completely committed yourself, right? There were other suitors, which I'm not going to get into why I don't believe in just that as a concept, but another video. But when it's the right time. When there was other people who were willing to commit in a full commission to you, and then you're saying you're going to do stuff, then you don't do them on an extreme level, whether that be pay for the house, whatever. You know what I mean? And this is where the financial thing, I think, comes into it, because people will start to feel like, well, I'm paying 50, 60, 70, 30. I'm mainly talking about women here, because I don't think guys care as much. I've realized that guys don't actually care as much about how much you as a woman are bringing in financially, as much as what you're bringing in overall, which I think is natural. I think that's natural masculinity, as in to expect to be the overall provider in the long term, right? And I've seen a lot of marriages that have worked from people who haven't overthought this type of stuff. But I just think when you are willing to step out of an agreement like that, then what can you be trusted for anything? Because that is the biggest commitment you can make. Somebody, you and somebody, it's not just that you commit to them, but they committed to you. They invested in the fact that you said you were going to be here and you decided not to be. I don't know. Something about that for me just doesn't sit right. Something about that to me is just really evil as well, especially from us women, especially when it comes down to money. And if that's your only factor, like, oh, the only reason I'm getting a divorce is because he's not, I'm making 80,000 a year and I'm making 100,000 a year and he's making 80,000. Like, that sounds stupid. You sound stupid and you sound like selfish, right? That's a huge commitment. It's a commitment that your children respected, right? I watched this one video. This is what I'll end it, because this video is getting super long. And it was about this couple, like an old couple. They make prank videos. Their youngest son started it, and then the whole family got involved. And I think that's so wholesome. They're all making money from making ridiculous content on YouTube, and that's the exact type of hustle I think people should be doing in this type of climate we live in. Anyway, so the parents decided to prank all their 4 children and say we're getting a divorce and whatever. And all the kids, and this, bearing in mind, they have 4 sons, 1 daughter, right? And it was really funny how they all reacted. It was, I'll tell you guys who it was in case you want to watch it. It was Mama Joan, who is like the mother of Kristen Reef on YouTube. And so you guys can check it out. It's on Mama Joan's channel. And I found it so interesting how the fact that their parents had stayed together and were now getting a divorce made them question the concept of making that type of commitment in the first place. And that's how powerful this is, because when you set that tone, when you say, I'm going to commit myself to somebody, you don't have to get married. None of us have to stand and say vows and, oh, yeah, and have a beautiful day. And that's why I don't really want to have a big wedding myself, because I just think, for me, I want my marriage to be more about, this is what I want to do, not just this is what looks cute on Instagram, this is something I'm going to regret in the long run. This is something, because my thing even with Tia is like, at what point did you lose respect for him? Because I never lost respect for him. Guys, I know of a couple who are like doing very, very well, definitely above average, probably middle class, but started out, you know, lower class, right? And how they started out, the husband and wife were both working. Then he started to, you know, invest in a lot of his own type of things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't, right? His wife stuck by him. Eventually it worked out for him and he started to make serious bank, seriously good money, to the point where then she got to step away from her job. And to me, that was an illustration of true commitment, and not just, oh, the second you're going down, I'm not going to be out. That is like the worst type of promise to break, because now that's what we're normalizing as a society, that, well, if you don't keep, we're normalizing earning love as opposed to, you are the person who I'm committing to love regardless. And the commitment element of marriage is what is actually missing, I think, in society. But you guys let me know your thoughts anyway. I don't want to go on and on. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe if you're feeling the vibe and you want to join the tribe. I would love to hear what any of you guys have to say. You guys need to support me, because I know the YouTubes and the algorithms ain't. Don't forget to hit that like button. If life's a game, then let's play to win. God bless every single one of you guys, and I'll see you in my next one.